This is a pretty depressing headline.
Supposed to compete with a hedge fund out of Texas on buying a home. It makes you feel insane because it's like there's a conspiracy against me at this point.
If you're looking for a place to live right now, you face a radically different housing market than people did even just 15 years ago. Home prices have gone up, rents have gone up, evictions have increased, and a whole group of would-be home buyers has been priced out of homeownership.
This is a very interesting. The median value house, income needed to buy the median value house, 40,000 used to be the median value house. Now it's 120. That's three times the price in 10 years. I mean, that probably has something to do with the amount of rent. It's called interest in English. Interest, or the fact that the banks are allowed to put a 6% interest loan on your house, of which is maybe 400K. That's a lot of money over 30 years.
Becoming permanent renters.
People want to own the American dream. They don't want to rent the American dream.
They've been replaced by an industry that treats our communities and neighborhoods like a day trader treats stocks. Just something to buy and sell to maximize return.
It's been catastrophic.
Really.
And of course, this makes sense because it doesn't really matter how much we care and how angry we are unless we do something about it. If we allow the people that are flipping houses, the people who have the money to purchase 100 houses and let 50 stand empty, then we are a part of the problem as much as they could have been a part of the solution. We aren't doing anything and they aren't doing anything. So who's really to blame? I mean, government, you can go in and try to attack the government for this, but let's be completely honest. If everybody rises up and says we're not paying for these prices, and government has to step in and help, power of the masses, we just don't utilize it.
Just a few firms have been able to target and corner the market here. Their business model is built on exploitation and on having a very uneven playing field tilted in their favor.
So who exactly is behind this? We went to the cities at the center of this crisis to understand how single-family homes became big business.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense if somebody's purchasing them and renting them out.
For the last 7 years, Sandra de los Santos has rented this house in Charlotte, North Carolina. Now she's packing up. In a few weeks, she and her family have to leave.
Yo le dije a la compañía que hace 2 años la casa se venía llenando de moho, pero ellos nunca me habían hecho caso.
From the beginning, Sandra's had problems with the rental. Every time it rained, water flooded into the house. Then came the mold.
Yeah, that shit's scary. In Norway, our school got closed down because of this. There was too much mold in the bathrooms and in the showers, so they had to stop the whole school and we had to create like a, well, they didn't stop the school, but they stopped the whole gym, and nobody was allowed to go into the toilet, so we had like a few days off because of that. But also they had to create like some makeshift showers for us to have gym classes in, because black mold in Norway is considered bad no. So this looks pretty damn bad.
Esposo tuvo que cambiar esa pared para que no nos afectara, porque mis hijos prácticamente ellos cada mes estaban enfermando. Eran desvelos de mis hijos, no íbamos a trabajar por hacer todo eso y ellos no nos han compensado con ni $1. Nunca, al contrario, nos suben las rentas.
It's been years since she's been asking for repairs.
Jessica Moreno is a housing organizer who's helping Sandra.
They got their rent raised every year. They do what they can to make sure the rent is paid every single month. And then on top of that, they still have to fix the home.
When she looked into Sandra's landlord,
this is a big problem. They don't have to fix the home. They are fixing the home. And of course, if they don't fix the home, they might get sick. Do not get me wrong. This is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you could have found a new place. You could have done something else. And yes, it is difficult. Here in the Netherlands now, it's incredibly difficult to find a house. And I'm about to have to find a new one soon, which is real annoying. However, if the landlord doesn't do anything, you have to either whistle blow. Sadly, I don't like snitching, but I'm not gonna get sick because some fucker wants to make more money off of me.
She found it's a Texas-based private equity firm that's among the largest owners of single-family homes in the country.
She rents from a corporate landlord called Amherst. Just in Charlotte, Amherst owns 1,583 homes. When you think of landlords, you think of someone that has maybe 2 houses, right? That's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, backed by Wall Street, corporations that own thousands of homes.
Sandra says she spent $25,000 repairing the house, and Amherst hasn't paid her back for any of it.
They actually have an office here in Charlotte, which we went to, and it's 2 suites that are filled with boxes. No one's there.
After Sandra protested
That's a pretty G move from these people. It's like, yeah, you can come to our office. Only boxes are there. But honestly, this is a really bad situation, and I'm sure it happens in Europe too, because the prices have been steadily increasing, and not by 1 or 2% a year. Like now, they're allowed to add up the rent about 5.5%, and that's what happened to us now recently. 5.5%, and we aren't even keeping up with inflation in rent, in payments from a job.
Publicly, the company finally contacted her and sent an inspector to the house. Then they offered her $2,000 to leave.
It's a slap in the face. Of course, she said no. She wasn't going to take that. Then they said that she would have to leave at the end of her lease. She was forced out of her community.
Was she?
And a lot of people are under that situation.
Well, this, I think, needs some governmental regulation, because if you're allowed to deal with a landlord and the landlord deals with you like this, then it's endangering people, and then it'll go onto the healthcare system. But they're profiting on the healthcare system too, so it doesn't really matter as much for them. I guess it's just win-win. Never mind.
This is a problem that didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago.
Taylor Shelton is a geographer who maps the ownership of single-family homes.
Prior to the 2008 foreclosure crisis, large corporations were really not involved in the single-family rental market at all.
After the 2008 crash, Wall Street saw an opportunity in millions of foreclosed homes, especially in the Sun Belt cities hardest hit.
What the foreclosure crisis presented was a mass of available inventory for extremely cheap.
So when property values skyrocketed over the next decade, the proceeds went to Wall Street, not to the people who now rented the homes. The result has been a housing recovery without a homeowner recovery.
By
2022, large investors were buying more than 1 in every 4 single-family homes sold in the US.
The absolute largest companies really is their...
So what they're really saying is that you're having a 1 in 4 chance of being the tenant of a company that will fuck you. That is absolutely not some good odds. And I am absolutely sure that a lot more people have a story like this, and a lot more people will have a story to tell. And if government doesn't step in and they're just allowed to profiteer again, it's going to go to hell. And then the country is going to start going to hell with more people, like in California, becoming homeless. And then you're going to just have more and more and more and more and more issues piling up, because homelessness is going to be a massive concern. Well, for the poor people, which I guess they don't care as much about, but still care a little bit.
Two. The first is Invitation Homes, which is a publicly traded real estate investment trust. The next biggest actor is Progress Residential, which is owned by a private equity firm, Pretium Partners, based in New York City on Wall Street. After those 2 biggest companies, there's really 4 more. Amherst Holdings, based in Texas. First Key Homes, owned by Cerberus Capital Management. American Homes for Rent,
There's always
now
a
known
thick
as
girl
AMH,
in those videos.
and then
It's so
Tricon
annoying.
American Homes.
Never mind. I guess like
that
70% of
landlords
Americans
are able to
overweight,
do.
so it makes sense.
The first is these landlords raise rent and fees at much faster rates than any other type of landlord.
Holy fucking schnitzel. If rents have raised by about 30% since what was it? 2020, was it 20 or 22? Let's find out again.
3 things that much faster.
30% since 2020, so that's 5 years. Well, not even 5 years, that's 4 years. Jesus Christ. That's like 8% a year, isn't it? Jesus Christ.
Rates than
it's
any
like here
other
now,
type of
5.5%.
The second
crazy.
thing is that eviction is a really core part of their business model. Institutional
makes a lot of
investors
sense.
are way more likely to file for eviction, not as a kind of last resort, but actually at the very first moment they're able to. And then the third thing is that we know these companies are actually producing worse outcomes in terms of building maintenance. So they are in effect providing a worse product for higher prices.
I mean, that's what happens when you create was it oligopoly? It's not a monopoly, but it's multiple people together making a monopoly. So it's not an oligopoly, I think. And this is what happens when you do those things. It'll be prices rising and quality going down because they have no necessity to create quality anymore. Because you don't have to choose them anymore. It's just you have to live and you have to choose the most affordable, which happens to be not affordable anymore.
In Atlanta, Wall Street landlords now own more than a quarter of single-family homes.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I met up with Robbie Caban, an Atlanta broker who's been working in real estate for over a decade.
What I've seen is that my clientele, that buying pool of first-time homeowners or elderly who are downsizing, you know, with limited income, like veterans and so on, they're no longer able to purchase. They have just been wiped
out of the market
because they cannot compete with the other buyers in the market.
Tell me more about the corporate buyers. What influence have you seen them have on the market here?
It's been catastrophic. Truly, the pool of homes available has been so diminished that, in essence, normal people who have just general lending on limited funds, are priced out, and they're forced into rentals. And because those same companies control the rentals, you know, there are very little options. When a cash buyer can come in, like the corporate buyers, and buy within 5 days, no appraisal, you know, virtually no inspection, as is. Yeah. How can a person who needs 30 days or more, needs an inspection, needs a due diligence period, needs an appraisal for the bank, it's required, compete with that? They can't.
Let's break it down. You can't beat them because they don't have the same rules. We aren't playing in the same playing field. We are in the kiddie pool, and they are splurging around with their big boy diggers. And it seems to me that when you are in the kiddie pool, we have to take at least 30 days, including inspection, and they do not have those rules. They can just do whatever, cash buy, cash money. But if we have the money, then we are also playing in the big boy pool, or whatever you would want to call it, in the big graveyard diggy.
Can't.
According to one study, the shift from owning to renting has resulted in over $1 billion of lost equity for renters over the last 10 years. And that's just in Atlanta.
I mean, I paid $24,000 last year for a place that I have nothing to show for.
Austin Hunter is a cabinet maker whose last 3 landlords have been different investment firms, most recently First Key Homes. In the last 6 years,
I'm sure we're going to be hearing a little bit about his terrible experience with them. And honestly, I don't blame him. If it's 1 in 4, it's very difficult to not find one of these big investment firms.
Austin's rent has doubled. Long term, he thinks it might make more sense just to live in his van.
How am I supposed to compete with a hedge fund from Texas that's trying to buy a house when, you know, any house that like I could ostensibly afford, they're coming in with cash? It really feels like I'm pushing a boulder up the hill and continually getting bludgeoned by the boulder coming back down on me.
Corporate owners of single-family homes argue that they don't contribute to the housing crisis, pointing to the fact that
Of course, this is the Spider-Man meme all over again, everybody pointing at each other. Truth is, the fact that they're saying something like this is either just to save face or because they're fucking stupid. Because if you own 1/4 of the homes in America, let's make it very broad, okay? But 1/4 of the homes in these areas, then you have a massive power and impact on what's going to happen within said housing situation.
Nationally, they own less than 10% of the market. But if you're looking for a place to live, the market you care about isn't national. It's one neighborhood versus another. And in some cities, these firms are building local monopolies.
The way these companies' business practices have evolved is essentially to avoid competing with one another through this geographic targeting. Invitation Homes tends to purchase in, on average, wealthier and whiter communities. Progress and Main Street Renewal tend to focus on somewhat poor.
More wealthy white communities can be a blessing or a curse, because you can have a Karen that will complain till she gets stuff done. Or you can have people that just go, oh no, don't worry about me, don't worry about me, don't worry about me.
Or predominantly black neighborhoods. In some neighborhoods, it's upwards of 50 or even 75% of all single-family rentals are owned by these large Wall Street investors.
So it is a monopoly then, it's not even an oligopoly.
That element of market power is really significant in the way these companies operate, really meaning that if you want to live in a given neighborhood, you're forced into working with a single landlord.
That's stupid.
Today, my administration is sending a very clear message to corporate landlords.
In July, the Biden-Harris administration announced a new plan to slow rent increases.
We are going to cap rent increases at no more than 5% a year.
But 5% is still gonna fuck people. It's still gonna fuck people badly. Think about it. That's 5, that's 10% per second year. It's not that big a difference in comparison to what they have had happen. That's, what was it, 30% in 4 years? What is this? That's 5, 10, 15, 20% in 4 years. It's not, well, I mean, it is a significant amount, but it's not going to make or break the death of the people that already are suffering due to the rent increases that has happened. Like, we aren't even following this with inflation. We aren't even getting enough money from our jobs to keep fucking going this way. This is far frustrating.
Period.
Yeah, clap for a very little job.
By Democrats in Congress to address corporate landlords' control over the housing market.
Just make them unable to be corporate landlords.
Senator Merkley's bill would cap ownership at 100 properties and make corporate landlords sell the rest in 10 years.
Yes.
But so far, no legislation has been brought up for a vote.
Because who makes money and who gets money from the people who makes money? The people that are lobbying. The people that are lobbying don't want to lose their money, and therefore they do whatever they can to keep the money. Now, how many of them are being paid by housing and real estate companies? I don't know. But it is legal to lobby over there, so why wouldn't they?
Corporate ownership of single-family homes is hardly the only problem with our housing system. But the way Wall Street has siphoned up neighborhoods that were once a path to building wealth for working people, it's really one of the clearest examples of the fundamental problem.
We value money, not people.
Of course. It's always been the case.
That's what this system says.
I mean, in America at least.
Money.